Catastrophically, moderately. I'll take it. The distance between us shrank by one step. She took it. Not me. I don't want to go home upset, she admitted. Not after that kiss. My pulse kicked. It was a good kiss. It was an excellent kiss. Don't get smug. Too late. She laughed softly, then reached for my hand again. Her fingers slid into mine with less hesitation this time, and the simple trust of it almost undid me. Walk me? She asked. Anywhere? Dangerous answer. I stand by it. We walked back through the city slower than necessary at a bakery window. She stopped to admire a display of tiny lemon cakes, even though the shop was closed. I love lemon desserts, she said. Noted. That sounded ominous. It was romantic research. She leaned her shoulder into mine. You're taking notes. Mentally, Avery Hart likes tacos, honest men, sad pears, and lemon cake. And men who don't panic when ex-boyfriends try to ruin the evening. I was panicking internally, very masculine, very silent. She turned, still holding my hand, and looked up at me under the bakery awning. I'm sorry he dragged you into this. I'm not. Her brows pulled together. I don't like why it happened, I said. But I'm not sorry I'm standing here with you. The gardenness in her face softened into something open enough to make my throat tight. She rose on her toes and kissed me. Not a question this time, a choice. Her hand pressed against my chest right over my heart, and I felt myself answer before I even moved. One hand at her waist, the other still tangled with hers. She tasted faintly of cinnamon, sugar, and lime. When she pulled back, she stayed close, forehead nearly touching mine. Second date, she whispered. Tomorrow, I smiled. Lemon cake and coffee and no hidden agendas and no emotionally gray shirts. Cruel but fair. Her phone stayed quiet the rest of the walk, and I was grateful. We talked about normal things, her worst art class disaster, my most unreasonable client, whether soup counted as a meal or a beverage with confidence issues. By the time we reached her building, the night felt like ours again. Avery paused at the door. I had a good time somehow. High praise. I mean it. She squeezed my hand. Thank you for not making me regret telling the truth. I wanted to kiss her again. I also wanted to leave her with certainty, not pressure. So I lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles instead. Her breath caught. Tomorrow, I said. She nodded, smiling now. Tomorrow. I waited until she got inside, then turned toward my car. My phone buzzed before I reached the corner. Jenna, I'm sorry. Call me when you can. There's something else you should know about Travis. As I called Jenna from my car, she answered like she'd been holding the phone against her face. Before you yell, I'm not yelling. You're doing the quiet voice. That's worse. That's dad voice. We don't have a dad voice. We invented one emotionally. I pinched the bridge of my nose. What do I need to know about Travis? Jenna went quiet. He's on the donor committee for the Art Center grant. Of course he was. He's not the final decision, she rushed on. But he has influence. I didn't realize until tonight that he and Avery had history. She never talks about him, because he sounds like the kind of man women stop naming, so he takes up less space. Jenna exhaled. Yeah. I looked back toward Avery's building. Her apartment light had come on. Third floor, left side. A small square of gold in the dark. What does he want? I asked. Control, Jenna said. Probably attention. Possibly to make sure she doesn't get something good without him attached to it. I thought of Avery under the bakery awning, rising on her toes to kiss me like she was choosing joy on purpose. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Don't go caveman, Jenna warned. I'm not. You're thinking about it in a tasteful, well-designed way. I almost smiled. I'm thinking this is Avery's information to handle, not mine. Good, Jenna said softly. That's the brother I was hoping would show up. I deserve that. The next morning, I texted Avery. Miles, I have 2 important questions. Avery, if one is whether soup is a beverage, I'm blocking you. Miles, worse. Lemon cake before coffee or after? Avery, during I contain multitudes. Miles, second question. Can I wear the emotionally gray shirt if I bring flowers? Avery, depends. Are the flowers also emotionally gray? Miles, yellow. Avery, risky. Pick me up at 6. At 6, I stood outside her building with a small bunch of yellow tulips and a blue shirt. So aggressively cheerful, I felt like a children's television host. Avery came out wearing jeans, a white blouse, and red lipstick. That nearly erased my ability to form language. She stopped on the top step and looked me over. Wow, too much. You look like you're here to teach a seminar on optimism. I panicked. Her laughter warmed the sidewalk. Then she saw the tulips and her expression softened in a way that made the panic worth it. These are beautiful, she said. I asked the florist for not emotionally gray strong brief. She took them, then surprised me by stepping close and kissing my cheek. Her lips were warm, quick, and not nearly enough. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I managed. We went to a little cafe with mismatched chairs and lemon cakes in a glass case. Avery insisted we order 2 forks and 1 slice because romance is mostly portion negotiation. "I thought romance was longing," I said. "Only before dessert arrives." We sat by the window. Outside, rain tapped gently against the glass, turning the streetlights blurry. Avery placed the tulips in an empty water carafe between us. For a while, the world behaved. She told me about the arts center, how the kids' pottery class always ended in clay on the ceiling, how the senior watercolor group had a rivalry with the teen mural club, how the teaching kitchen wasn't just a kitchen. It was where they held cheap family cooking nights, after-school snacks, nutrition workshops, birthday cupcakes for kids whose parents couldn't afford parties. When she talked about it, her whole face lit from within. I liked her laugh. I liked her mouth. I liked the way she challenged me. But watching her describe something she loved, that was the moment attraction turned into something deeper and more inconvenient. "You're staring," she said. "I'm listening aggressively." "No, that's staring." "Fine. I like watching you talk about what matters to you." Her fork paused over the cake. I expected a joke. She seemed to expect one from herself, too. Instead, she said, "That scares me a little." "What does being seen when I'm not performing?" The cafe noise softened around us. I leaned forward. "You don't have to perform with me." Her smile was small. "You say that on date 2. Date 7, you may discover I cry at insurance commercials and alphabetize spices when stressed. I design kitchens. Alphabetized spices are my love language." "That is the most disturbing thing you've said." "I'm a complex man." She laughed, but her eyes stayed tender. Then she reached across the table and threaded her fingers through mine, right beside the lemon cake. "Jenna told you about Travis being on the committee, didn't she?" I turned my hand palm up, holding hers properly. "Yes, thank you for not opening with that. It's your life. I'm trying not to stomp through it wearing helpful boots." "Helpful boots," she repeated. Awful image. I workshopped nothing. She ran her thumb once over my knuckles. "He texted me this morning. Said if I kept seeing you, people might question whether the art center was trying to influence your firm for free work." Anger rose, but I held onto her hand instead of the anger. "What do you want to do?" I asked. She searched my face. "You're asking?" "Yes. I want to not let him turn everything good into a trap." "Then we don't." Her breath shook just once. "And I want to keep seeing you," she said. "Even if it's messy." There it was, the clear step. Not dramatic, better. I brought her hand to my mouth and kissed her fingers. "I want that too." Her eyes went bright. "Good, good. You're very eloquent when emotionally overwhelmed." I'm saving my better words for cake. After coffee, the rain had slowed to a mist. We walked beneath my umbrella close enough that her hip brushed mine with every other step. Halfway down the block, she slipped her arm around my waist. I looked at her. "What?" she said. "Shared umbrella physics. Of course, don't make it romantic. It is objectively romantic." She smiled up at me. "Fine, a little." We stopped under the awning of a closed bookstore. Rain ticked on the metal above us. Avery looked up at me and the teasing fell away. "I don't want to be careful with you all the time," she said. "Then don't." Her hand slid to the back of my neck and she pulled me down into a kiss. This one had rain in it. "Lemon sugar nerves want?" Her body pressed close to mine under the umbrella, and I wrapped an arm around her waist not to steady her, but because she fit there like a thought I'd been trying to finish. When we parted, she stayed against me. "I'm glad you answered the way you did at Bellother," she whispered. "What answer?" "When I said I couldn't afford the date." I brushed a raindrop from her cheek with my thumb. "I'm glad you said it." She closed her eyes for half a second, leaning into my touch. Then my phone buzzed. I ignored it. Avery's mouth curved. "Popular?" "Deeply, mostly with cabinet suppliers." It buzzed again. She sighed. "Check it. If it's your sister, she'll manifest behind us." It wasn't Jenna. Unknown number. A photo filled the screen. Avery and me under the bookstore awning kissing below it. Cute. "The committee meeting is tomorrow. Let's see how romantic unemployment feels." Avery read the message on my phone. For 1 second, she went perfectly still beneath the bookstore awning. Then she laughed. Not because it was funny, because apparently there was a point where fear got so repetitive it became boring. "Romantic unemployment," she said. "That's new." I looked down at her. "Are you okay?" "No." She handed the phone back. "But I'm also done letting him narrate my life." That was the first moment I understood the difference between someone needing rescue and someone deciding she was finished being cornered. Avery stepped out from under my umbrella and into the misty rain. Her red lipstick had faded from our kiss, and her hair was curling at the edges. She looked furious, beautiful, and more herself than she had all night. "I'm going to the committee meeting tomorrow," she said. "Okay. And I'm telling them Travis has been threatening me." "Good. And you are not going to storm in and threaten him back." I put a hand over my chest. "You wound me, Miles. I was only going to storm in with excellent posture." Her mouth twitched. "No storming. No storming, I promised." She stepped back under the umbrella, close enough that our shoulders touched. "But will you come with me?" "Anywhere," I said again. This time she smiled like she believed me. The next afternoon, Avery walked into the art center wearing the same green dress from our first date and a look that could have cut glass. I wore navy shirt, no emotional gray, no optimism seminar, neutral support fabric. The meeting was in a room with folding chairs, bad coffee, and children's paintings taped to the walls. Travis sat at the far end of the table in an expensive suit, looking like a man who had practiced concern in a mirror. When he saw me, his smile sharpened. When he saw Avery, it faltered because she didn't look ashamed. She looked ready. The committee chair, a woman named Mrs. Alvarez with silver hair and terrifying glasses, began with polite introductions. Then Avery stood. Her voice shook for the first sentence. By the second it didn't. She told them about the messages, about the rent payment he kept holding over her, about the photos, about the threat to interfere with the grant if she kept seeing me. Travis leaned back, scoffing. "This is personal drama. It has nothing to do with Mrs. Alvarez." Held up one finger. He stopped talking. I fell a little in love with her too, platonically. Avery placed printed screenshots on the table. Not theatrically, not triumphantly, just clearly. "I'm not asking you to punish him for being my ex," she said. "I'm asking you to decide whether someone using this grant process to pressure an employee belongs on this committee." The room went quiet. Travis tried to smile. Avery has always been emotional about money. My whole body went hot, but Avery reached back without looking and found my hand. Not because she needed me to speak, because she wanted me there. So I stayed silent and held on. Mrs. Alvarez removed her glasses. "Mr. Vale, you are dismissed from this meeting pending review." His face changed. "You can't." "I can," she said. "And I have." It was not dramatic. No one clapped. There was no cinematic music. Travis grabbed his phone and left with the stiff walk of a man who had expected power and found witnesses instead. Only after the door closed did Avery's hand tremble in mine. I leaned close. Still no storming. She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "You were very restrained. I aged 7 years handsomely." "Good to know." The committee voted to continue reviewing the grant without Travis. They also asked if my firm would be willing to submit a formal proposal for the teaching kitchen, fully documented, fully disclosed, and paid at a reduced nonprofit rate. Avery glanced at me. I glanced back. This mattered. Not the kitchen, not the contract, the choosing. "I'll submit if Avery wants me to," I said. Every eye moved to her. Avery's chin lifted. "I do." There it was again. Not rescue. Partnership? Outside, the rain had stopped. The sidewalk shone, and the air smelled like wet pavement and possibility. Avery stood on the art center steps, staring straight ahead. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, then shook her head, then laughed. "I don't know. I think I just got my life back and forgot where I put it." I stepped in front of her. "Maybe start small." "With what?" I held out my hand. "Dinner." Her eyes softened. "Can you afford this date?" I looked at her, remembering that rooftop menu, the way her voice had gone quiet. The courage it took to say the thing most people hide. Then I gave her the answer I should have given even faster that first night. "I can afford honesty," I said. "Tacos are negotiable." She stared at me. Then she laughed so hard she had to grab my sleeve. And right there on the steps of the art center with children's paintings in the windows behind her, Avery kissed me like the future had opened a door. By the following spring, the teaching kitchen was finished. The first class was a family pasta night. Kids dusted flour on their own noses. Parents chopped tomatoes at butcher block counters I had measured 3 times because Avery kept leaning over my shoulder and distracting me. "You designed this island too tall," she whispered during the opening party. "I designed it to code. I'm 5'4". Your code is oppressive. You approved the plans." I was blinded by affection. I turned to her. "Affection?" She pretended to inspect a cabinet hinge. "Mild affection. We live together. Moderate affection. You alphabetized my spices. Extreme stress response. You labeled oregano. It deserved clarity." I laughed, and she smiled at me in that way I'd learned to recognize. The one that said she was teasing because the real thing underneath was too tender to hold in public. Her father recovered enough to come to the opening. My mother cried over the backsplash, which felt poetic. Jenna took credit for everything and was only partially wrong. Travis disappeared from the donor committee, then from the art center entirely. Sometimes the old fear still found Avery. A sudden buzz of her phone, a bill in the mail, a restaurant with no prices on the menu. But now, when something scared her, she didn't shrink. She reached for my hand, for the truth, for the life she was building, and I reached back every time. 1 year after that first terrible date, I took Avery back to Bellwether, not to eat. Absolutely not. We stood outside under the same gold lights, dressed up for no practical reason. She wore the green dress again. I wore a shirt she had approved after rejecting 3 for vague accountant energy. Full circle, she said, looking at the entrance. Do you want to go in? She looked at the menu posted near the door, then at me. Not even a little. Thank God. I pulled 2 wrapped tacos from inside my coat. Avery gasped. Miles Bennett, carnitas, extra lime. Her eyes went bright. You brought tacos to a restaurant. I believe in closure. You believe in crimes. Romantic crimes. She took one, laughing, and we walked to the little park with the regretful fountain. It was still there, still coughing water like it had secrets. We sat on the same bench. Avery leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, taco balanced carefully in both hands. I felt her warmth through my jacket, the steady weight of her beside me. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't said it? She asked. That you couldn't afford the date. She nodded. I looked at the fountain, then at her. I think I might have missed the bravest woman I know. She went quiet. Then she set her taco down, took my face in her hands, and kissed me slowly under the park lights. No panic, no audience, no one else writing the story, just Avery choosing me, just me choosing her back. And when she pulled away, smiling with tears in her eyes, I knew the most expensive thing on that first date had never been the menu. It was the risk of telling the truth. What would you have done if your date looked across the table and said, I can't afford this date? Have you ever experienced something similar where honesty changed everything? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next.